What's up, everybody? For those who don't know me, I'm Henry Paris, and I work for Suncoast Contractor Supply down in Fort Myers, Florida, as well as Beach Lumber in Long Beach, Mississippi. Both are owned by the Moore family, but operate independent of one another in their own respective markets. But today, I wanted to bring a video to you that's kind of casual, kind of conversational, but it shares a commonality between the two different lumber yards, and that is coastal environment decking material. There's a million different options. If I was a homeowner and I had to go into a showroom meeting and somebody showed me 14 some odd samples, I'd be kind of overwhelmed. So I wanted to simplify that so that we can add value to your house. The gist of it is we have put all of these onto various jobs over the years. We are a generational lumberyard. We want the products, and I hate to use the word products because nobody buys products. They buy time back, they buy cool stuff. So we're gonna talk about cool stuff. Let's just reframe it and call it what it is. But I wanted to educate y'all so that way going into those showroom meetings, you can see that what we have to offer is a curated list of what works and our experiences on that. And there's not a one size fit all. There's different things for different jobs, but the last option, because I kind of want to go from like least applicable, because I don't want to just sit here and roast them, but I want to say stuff that we have done some R&D on and I'm not super fond of, to an ecosystem that has everything that you need and you can enter into it via price point, color, or wood grain pattern. Kind of the simple answer if you ask me. Some of which have siding options, port shielding options, trim options. Those are all worthwhile knowing. Handrail options, so if you want a drink rail to put your coffee, your glass of wine, your cold beverage, if you will, then you can have it so that the finish color matches, because that's important too. It's the small things, because ultimately, let me just level with you. We want you to be outside. We want you to enjoy the house. We can sit here and talk about products all day long until the cows come home, but what's that gonna do? We're just gonna sit here and bicker and argue about what's better. It's like, go outside, dude. There's life to live. So let's talk about the stuff that allows you to live life, not be perpetually stuck in construction. Ain't nobody got time for that. Anyway, I'm rambling. I'm not gonna try to sell anything. This is educational only. We're not sponsored. This is just ripping off the top of the dome, and it's way too long to go on Instagram or Facebook. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, Duck's Back is going to be the first one that I want to talk about. It has this cool integrated water channeling system. It's an interlocking board. So the thought is if you have a space that's underneath the deck, it can keep it dry. But as you can see, the walking surface on this is thinner than most of them. This is a sample, so it'll only extrapolate if the board's got longer, but it's prone to cupping and warping. The goal of a deck outside of maintenance and for it to look pretty is it's gotta work. So if you were to extrapolate this to 12, 16, 20 feet, I think it's just gonna have too many bumps and waves, and that's something that you already have to fight from a joist standpoint. Proper installation requires planing of the joist. Ideally, you'd want to have a 6-foot level, slide it across the board without it getting, or slide it across the deck without it getting hung up. This is flashy. This is pretty cool. It's composite, so it's hot. The other part that we're going to get into later in the video, not gatekeeping, we have to run through this sequentially, is there's composite and PVC. Composite basically means you don't have to replace it. It's going to outlive you, or it's going to outlive the joist underneath it. The other part is PVC, which has the same lifetime warranty on it, but because it is not a two-part material, it's a continuous material all the way through, it's cooler to the touch. The heat can dissipate into the core of the board and not sit on top. So if you're nursing homes, small kids, don't want to burn your dog's feet, all the different things that I think are valid but are kind of nuanced per situation. I gravitate towards PVC. In both Florida and Mississippi, it's been real feel of, I don't know, 110, 108 degrees. It's hot. So anywhere where we can shave 10, 15, even sometimes 30 degrees, that's a huge win, and I think is valuable to know in the purchasing process. So, all right, like I said, Duck's Back, bottom of the list. It's cool, not that cool. All right, moving into the next category of composite boards. These three boards are all one and the same, I think. They have a cartoonish-like grain pattern to them. See if I can hold them up. Oh yeah, there it is. So as you can see, that does not look the most realistic. And due to the just high level of flat surface on here, I think it is a little bit more slick. So kind of going back into who's buying it. Is it a nursing home? Is it for your parents? And you're helping them out with a remodel. the traction percentage, if you can quantify it, because I'm kind of subjectively talking here, it is a little bit lower than some of the other ones. So worthwhile knowing your audience, right? And then the other part is whenever you do these hidden fasteners, the grooved edges, I like to call it. If I can get it to focus. Stand by. All right, as you can see here, it is capped and then cut, which leaves this to a higher susceptibility of delamination. We're going to talk about one further down on the list, the one that is the end-all be-all. It is capped inside the groove, as in it's cut and then capped. Because whenever you're running these grooved shoulders or hidden fasteners, when you have to go replace one because life happens, you have to end up flicking up the boards like a deck of cards, and it's a huge hassle. So if you were to have a product failure in the middle of the deck, speaking from experience here, not ideal. So this is Fibron, Lumber Rock, and Moisture Shield. The last little bit I'll say on that is Moisture Shield is designed to have a natural ombre. So if you have a 10-foot deck and you have your gutter over here and you have your house over here, the ones that are closer to the gutter or the furthest part of the porch, they're going to naturally fade quicker. It's a look. It's advertised to do that. Some people would argue that it looks like a finish failure. So I don't know if it's a built-in safety net or if that's a design thing, but that is something I always try to be forthcoming with when somebody's interested in it, because this does come at a price point that is, we'll say, competitive compared to a lot of them. But regardless, if you're spending thousands of dollars on a decking project that you want to last for a long time, it's always better to do it one time than it is to do it twice. So if you're unhappy with it in 7 to 8 years, then you're redoing it. So let's get it right the first time. Anyway, so that is that on the composite. Actually, I'm gonna circle back to this. A lot of the composites are capped on 3 sides. So the bottom is going to be different than what's on the top. And there's a value to it being capped on all 4 sides because you'll have your wood grain and your composite. It is a mix of materials. If those get wet, they tend to drip and they don't stain concrete beneath it. But if you have like a bonfire pit and some chairs or something like that, like the last thing you want to have to do is go with a hose after it rains to then rinse that off. So a 4-sided capped composite board, because PVC is PVC, right? PVC is capped all sides because it is one continuous material. But a 4-sided capped composite board has an extra value that not a lot of people talk about, and it is like a cleanliness thing. So you have a nice house. Why do you have to go pressure wash the concrete before guests come over? Ain't nobody got time for that. All right, curveball. We're gonna talk about exotic hardwood here for a second. This is the right board for the right person, but the amount of people that is the right person, I think, is drastically smaller than a lot of people think. Eats through saw blades, kind of hard to install. It's a natural fibrous, it's wood, right? So it has the potential to cup, warp, turn, all the kind of stuff that you would see with a natural material, but it looks gorgeous. The warm tones that you get with this are unmatched, and because it is wood, it's cool to the touch, arguably the coolest to the touch. It is going to be highest on the spectrum of maintenance because they do tend to gray over time. You'll have to reseal it, restain it, all that kind of stuff. So like I said, right board for the right person, but that group of people is smaller than I think a lot of people give credence for. All right, we're going to move up to Trex, which is the Kleenex, the Coca-Cola of the decking world. Everybody is familiar with them. They set the gold standard. You know, I'd even liken them to Alabama football circa 2015. They ran the show, but the fall off also needs to be studied. I think they got a little bit complacent. The cap 4 sides conversation makes it back in here. I think they did a better job. Let me get this dialed in. I think they did a better job at capping and cutting these. It rounds into the groove a little bit better, but I think it's still prone to delamination. This is sold at big box stores, so there's some level of competition with that. And we do try to decommoditize what we do only because we offer a concierge level service. Like here we're explaining the nuances of all this so that you can get what's right. They're easily accessible. There's a lot of different colors, but because it is capped, I ain't going to try to worry about this whole focus nonsense going on, but basically you have the cap and you have the core. And what happens is the heat gets stored in between those two things. It doesn't actually dissipate down into the middle. So you have, if you were to do a thermal gun on it, it would read a certain temperature, but I'm not here to speak on the law of thermal dynamics, but the way that it is perceived actually is hotter than how it measures because of the amount of contact that you have. The heat is stored at the top, and like I said earlier, if you have dogs, kids, older people that are going to be using this, like, it's hot. Like, you try to go barefoot on, prime example, personal story even. We went to the Alabama Gulf Coast for a family vacation. We have, I think at this point, 15 grandkids in the mix, so a lot of kids running around. They go open the the PGT slider door to go hang out at the pool with all their cousins, and like, they have to go into the pool because if they go stand on the outside, we have a plethora. At this point, it was like 2 and 3 year old, like to the tune of, like, I don't know, 8 of them at this point. And like, it's sad. Like, they're literally very, very uncomfortable. And it's because they're composite boards. So we're all sitting around because we're in the industry and we're like, oh man, should have gone with PVC. But anyway, neither here nor there. Personal example. Let me just kind of speak to that real quick. But anyway, moving up the list, here's Trex, gold standard for composite for a long, long time. And the next thing we're going to talk about is Aridus. Aridus was the gold standard for PVC, specifically tongue and groove. Specifically tongue and groove. Great on the historic remodels or the people that are trying to keep their space underneath the deck dry. But the thing to know about this, it is heavily imported. So during the tariff nonsense that was going around, prices were increased preemptively, which I didn't think was necessarily the route to go with that. But that supply was kind of running short. So we have found an option that's actually 2 hours away from the Long Beach, Mississippi location. It's in Macomb, Mississippi. You know what? Let's just go ahead and talk about that, because gold standard, we don't need to talk about it. We already know about it. Modern Mill Acre is the solution, I think, for the tongue and groove. Now, it's only in this 3.5 inch variety. The Aridus came in 4 or 6. It had, I don't know, 5 finish colors and a paint ready color. This is actually the raw finish option, and it takes a water-based paint and stain and looks beautiful when it's done. They do offer, I think, 4 or 5 pre-finish options, but they lead with the raw, or like this kind of like primed variant. And because it is PVC and it's rice hull, that's the other cool part. The rice is harvested in Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, and it is 99.99% domestic. 0.1% is a part of their epoxy cocktail thing to put it together. But needless to say, because of how domestic it is, they're in our own backyard. It is sustainable. It is cool to the touch. It looks gorgeous. It comes in 20 feet options, which I think is a huge solution for some of those longer runs. Anyway, Modern Mill Acre, they're kind of new on the block, but very, very cool. We got to go tour their factory. Nice people, customer service. It's all there. This is a great kind of underrated or underappreciated option just due to how new it is. I'd like to see more of that. They do offer a whole smorgasbord of siding, porch ceilings, trim options. Modern Mill Acre. All right, moving on. This is an ecosystem. And so what we're going to do is we're going to briefly talk about how, like I said at the beginning, you can enter in from a price, a color, or a wood grain pattern basis, but they have it all. And ideally, because we offer so many things, doors, windows, trim, whatever, there's even that much more options in decking. So being able to consolidate and just unify the options, allows us to buy it better, allows us to instruct and educate better. And I think ultimately consumer satisfaction is higher because of it. It's a domino chain. So on the entry level side, you're going to have your scallop bottom, which is cheaper just due to the fact that it is less material. Now, you don't have room for a screw head and a plug, so you're going to get a color match, which real talk is color similar screws, or you can do the hidden fasteners in this as well. And we were talking about this earlier. This particular one, since it's scallop bottom, it is capped and then wrapped around the corner, but on the full bodied one, you can actually see the envelope actually goes inside of the groove, which I think is huge. Personal hot take here, but I think screws and plugs is going to be the most secure fastening system. They're not going to rock as much if you're to do the hidden fasteners on the edge, or you can do the top lock screws. But like I said, if you can do the screws and the plugs have a grain pattern, you can match the direction of the wood grain pattern that's on the board, it darn near disappears. And I think it's the most steady option. You can swap those screws out for stainless steel if you'd like, if that is just an extra value to you due to proximity to the coast. If you're a little bit more inland, you know, sometimes the peace of mind is worthwhile, but needless to say, those are the options. Now, TimberTech is the only one that has both composite and PVC. We're going to talk about the PVC exclusive, and then we're going to talk about the overlap, because I think the overlap is huge. The PVC has, on this case, either a wire brush finish, or you can have a cathedral grain, kind of like pine. Once again, PVC, so all the way through, cool to the touch. You can get it in 4-inch, 6-inch, 8-inch stair risers, fascia boards, 12-inch. I did the whole kit and caboodle is right here, and they have a ton of pre-finished colors. I'll flash it up on the screen. It's a lot. So unlike the modern mill acre, where there's only like 4 or 5, or you could paint it, you literally just turnkey say tan, gray, or brown, and then what size you want. So simplicity, once again, is a factor there. You can also get it in tongue and groove in either the 4 or the 6-inch. All the colors are in both 4 and 6-inch, except for slate gray, that is only in the 4-inch. But the cool thing about TimberTech is it's like a Venn diagram. If you have your composites on one end, your PVCs on the other end, there's an overlap where you can have a lesser expensive PVC, and I think dollar for dollar, that is the best way to go with it, because you get the performances of PVC, but you don't have the price tag. Some of the composite ones do get more expensive, but it's like a cross-cut, deep walnut look. Like, it looks gorgeous, and unless you go into the build or a showroom meeting with that in mind, I would venture to say that the more value-oriented PVC is going to be the way to go. Due to demand, we actually stock those, and I know some of y'all need this yesterday, so if you want turnkey, easy solution, that's it. So anyway, just to recap it, you have your composite, you have your PVC, you have your exotic hardwoods, all of which are great options. We want to lead with TimberTech, but supply whatever makes the most sense for your job. And I'll leave you to this. We need to be outside more. We could talk about products all day. We could talk about the features, the colors, the grain patterns, this, that, and the other. But like, ultimately what we need to be doing is enjoying fellowship with one another, being able to see the sunrise or the sunset, and just go out and enjoy life. The more time that we're under construction, the less time that we're doing that. So with that, we'll wrap it up. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments, send us a DM, call one of our offices. We'd be happy to help you all with that. I know if this is the first time for you, this is kind of a daunting part. And if you're right there at the end and you're ready to be done, well, let's go ahead and get you over the finish line. We'll see you next time.